Good day, Metric. Good day. Right. Today we'll be looking at one very important topic in grade 12, which is the human, or we say, response to the environment. Humans response to environment. By who? By humans. Right. So let's look at this topic. Well, when you talk about response to the environment, humans, we're looking at how human beings, being animals, are able to respond to environmental changes, right? So how on what helps humans to be able to respond to the environment? Well, the ability to be able to respond to the environment, it goes handy with the nervous system, right? The nervous system. So the nervous system is a system that is made up of that consists of nerves, right? Nerves that carries nerves, or sometimes we call them neurons. Neurons that actually carry um, that carry messages, which you usually call nerve or electrical impulse, right? So nerves carry electrical impulse. Okay, now to where and from when. Now, you must always remember that there are actually receptors. Receptors receive stimulus. So receptors receive, they receive and interpret stimulus. So these are receptors that uh, uh, make part of the nervous system. Therefore, you also have the spinal cord. So when the receptors receive the nerve or the stimulus, then this stimulus is interpreted and then it's converted into a nerve impulse. Then it's passed to the to the nerves. Then the nerves, they carry this. So the nerves are like a road through which the car moves. Now here we're talking about the neurons, which is like a road, and through which so impulses are able to travel, right? So the spinal cord actually forms part of the center through which these impulses or messages are received and interpreted with response to what is happening in the environment. So the spinal cord, it works hand in hand with the brain. With the what? The brain. So can you imagine, without the brain, without the spinal cord, then it means it will be very difficult for the that particular human being to live a complete life. So we are going to look into this in much more greater details. Now look at this here. Part of the nervous system there, we have also what we call the sense organs. These sense organs are very critical. Sense organs are very critical because they form part of the nervous system that helps us to be able to respond to the what? To the environment. Okay. Now, let's look at this in this way, that the sense organs include one, we have the eye, the human eye. Two, we have what we call the human ear, the ear, indlebe. Then we have also three, the skin. The skin also helps us to be able to detect temperature changes in the environment. The ear helps us to hear the sound of a car coming behind you. The eyes enables you to see danger coming, from a distance. Then you are able to respond or to make a decision in a particular way. Number 4, we have the tongue. The tongue enables you to detect the food. Remember, the food comes from the environment. Then you detect it and you are able to tell, to say, hey, this food is very nice. That's the tongue. Then last, number 5, we have the let me see, we've got the eye, the ear, the skin, the tongue, and we have also the nose. The nose enables you to detect different kinds of smells. Very important. Now let's leave it like this. This is the framework that we're going to be looking at into this whole chapter, right? Now, for now, I want us to look at the nervous system. The nervous system. So the nervous system, I will do it like this. Nervous system, right? We can actually break it into parts. One, we have what we call the central nervous system. Central nervous system. The central nervous system, also called the CNS, central nervous system. Then also we have what we call the peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system. These are two main branches of the nervous system. Now let's look at this here. What makes up the central nervous system? One, you have the brain. You have the what? The brain. And 2, you have also the spinal cord. So Nganyami, whenever they talk about the central nervous system, remember, you're simply talking about the brain. The brain working hand in hand with the spinal cord, which is an extension of the central nervous system, or the extension of the brain, if you will take it that way. Now let's look at this. The peripheral nervous system can further be divided into what we call the somatic nervous system. The somatic nervous system. The somatic nervous system. And as well, there is also what we call the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system. Right. Now I'll give you a breakdown so that you can have a look at how the nervous system is designed. Now let's just look at this framework here. Now, the autonomic nervous system, also called the ANS, not ANC, ANS, and we've got also what we call the SNS, right? Now, the ANS, it actually consists of the what we call the somatic nerves. Let me say this. No. Let me say this here. It consists of what we call the sympathetic nerves. It consists of the sympathetic nerves. Number 2, it also consists of what we call the parasympathetic. Okay. Now let's look at this here. The sympathetic nerves, they actually made up. Remember, it's made up of nerves. These nerves actually increases nerves that connect the let me say the nerves here which connect to the heart muscle as well as the breathing muscles. So they are able to increase your heartbeat. during emergence, your heartbeat can start pounding like never before because of the sympathetic nerves. This the increases heartbeat, for example. So also it increases as well the breathing rate. The breathing rate. So now let's look at this here. Also, the parasympathetic made up of nerves. Nerves here, these centers decreases. So that's why you cannot be angry forever. You cannot be angry forever. When you become angry, you see you have a lot of energy. The heart is pounding very fast. Your lungs are pushing out carbon dioxide and take in more oxygen, so you have a greater amount of energy. So all this is caused by the sympathetic nerves. However, after a while, that actually comes back to normal. So this is brought about nerve decreases heartbeat, for example, heartbeat, and as well decreases the breathing rate. So this is very important. Now we must not forget that being the autonomic nervous system, you must also remember here that it also touches the reflex arc, which we're going to look at in my next lesson. The reflex arc actually is made up of receptors. Remember, I already mentioned about the role of the receptors, which receive and interpret the stimulus and convert that into an impulse. So we've got the receptors there, then we've got nerves. Which nerves are we talking about then? We've got the sensory neuron. Sensory neuron or affector neuron, as well as what we call the motor neuron. The motor neuron, as well as the connector neuron. In other words, the parasympathetic and sympathetic would not actually be able to work effectively or efficiently without these nerves. So these nerves, they are able to transmit impulses from one point to another. Right. So that is roughly about the nervous system. Now let's look at this. Right. Now let's look at this. Let's look at this. Here we have the nervous system, right? In this nervous system, we're going to look at how it is structured, right? Remember, I spoke about the brain. I spoke about the brain. Now here, what's happening or what happens is that the brain is actually housed in this is the brain. This is the brain. So the brain is protected, by the skull. So the lithambo leli liphezulu, this is this is the cranium. The cranium is the upper part of your skull where the brain is actually located. So the lithambo, the skeleton, the skull, in a cranium. So this cranium, it protects the brain inside. That's number one. Number two, there is a membrane outside the brain, and this membrane, it is actually called the meninges. It's called the meninges. So the meninges is simply the membrane that provides protection to the brain. So in other words, the brain is protected in two ways. One, by the cranium. Two, by the meninges. Okay. So they've got the brain there. Now, this part here, which is an extension of the brain, because the brain cannot actually do all its work, on its own. Kuba ngathi nje you've got uthisha omkhulu la, uthisha omkhulu lo oyingqondo yesikole, right? Ingqondo le akakwazi uthisha omkhulu ukusebenza yedwa bese kuba ne-extension ye-office yakhe yatishumkhulu. Leyo office angise kuyi-office ya-deputy principal. So in other words, this part here which is like the deputy is now the spinal cord. So in other words, the office of the deputy is an extension of the office of the principal. When the principal is not there, then the deputy principal is able to execute the duties of the principal. Kuba ngathi nje uthishumkhulu ukhona kanti uthishumkhulu akekho. You get what I'm saying then? So this is very important, right? So now look at this. Outside the central nervous, remember we said the brain and the spinal cord, they form what we call the CNS, the central nervous system. However, now there are nerves outside the central nervous system. And these nerves that are outside the central nervous system, these are the nerves that we call the peripheral. These are the peripheral nerves. The peripheral nerves. Now look at this here. If the other one goes to your legs there, this is your leg there, and the other one goes to your other leg there. So these are the peripheral. So let's look at this here. We have the PNS, nomacity, the peripheral. The peripheral. So the peripheral consists of one, the cranial nerves. These are nerves in the cranium. Nerves in the cranium. Now cranial nerves. Cranial nerves. Nerves in, let's say, nerves in the cranium. In the cranium. What else? Also, it consists of what we call the let me say this here. We have got the cranial nerves as well as the nerves that are extended outside, that is outside the body, on your lower part of your body. Right, so this is the peripheral nerves. Right, the peripheral nervous system. Now, so roughly that is about the central nerve. The other things that we are going to talk about them in my next. Right, thank you.